Ja, herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Ausgabe AC Talk. Heute ist der letzte Tag der PDAC 2023 und ich habe aber jetzt noch zwei Interviews, oder ich habe noch ein Interview, sagen wir mal so, das zweite stattfindet, werden wir mal sehen. Es ist eine brandneue Company, hat letztes Jahr ihr IPO gehabt, First Class Metals. Bei mir ist your CEO,
Yes.
Marc, er ist CEO von der Company. Wie gesagt, das ist eine brandneue Company, gibt es noch nicht lang, aber sie hat durchaus Relationship zu Firmen, die wir kennen. So, Marc, thank you for your time.
No,
I know
thank you.
it's the last day on the PDAC. But first, before we talk about the project, what do you think about the PDAC 23? It was the same format like 3 years ago, so it was 3 years, it was no really PDAC. Do you think that changed something here, or how is the mood?
I think there's a lot of buzz. Yeah, a lot of buzz in exploration. Yes, the markets are still really difficult and raising money is still tough, but there's always money for the right project and the right people. I mean, one thing I've learnt in my career, Joe, is that investors back the project and the management. It has to be a combination. Of course, there's other things like jurisdiction and sovereign risk and security of tenure. And fortunately, Canada has those in abundance.
Yeah. So that means your projects are in Canada.
Yes, it does. They're all in Ontario. And that's another thing I've learned through my career in exploration, with small exploration companies, is focus. You see these small exploration companies, they've got a project in Canada, they've got one in Chile, and one maybe in Puerto Rico or somewhere else, and they don't focus. We've got 9 claim blocks, and they're all in northwest Ontario.
Mm-hmm. So that means also this brings the cost down, that you can go easily to the project itself. Then you have your headquarters for sure in some area in Ontario maybe, or in Vancouver, I don't know. But then you are more focused and you come close to all these projects. So it's made it easier.
It keeps it closer, and also you're in the same jurisdiction, because even within Canada, the mining code and the environmental codes, for example, in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, are different to Ontario. Okay. There's the federal, the overall codes is the same, but how the provinces interpret that is different. So you could potentially need different land registration people, different lawyers, even in the same country.
So, but coming to the project, what was the reason why you pick up this kind of projects, and how you get or bring your package together?
Well, it's slightly complicated.
Okay.
James and Ayub, who were the founders of the company, they were sitting in their houses in England, and they were started to either buy or stake claims in Ontario. And then, because they got notice, people came to them and offered them claims to buy. And they reached a point where they'd amassed about 4 different claim blocks. And then they thought, what do we do now? We don't know anything about geology. We don't know anything about the technical side. It was like a hobby to them. And that's when James says, I know this guy. And James rang me and said, Mark, would you be interested in giving us some technical assistance? But then we really gained some momentum, because an industry icon, Power Metals, who's got projects in like 10 different countries, they had 4 claim blocks here, well, in Ontario, near ours. They approached us, said, look, we were going to do an IPO. We hear you're going to do it. There's not enough market space for 2 small companies in that niche. Mm-hmm. So they put their claims into first class. They ended up with a third of the company on the valuation, so they were and they are still our biggest shareholder. Mm-hmm. They put their claims in, so we then went up to 7 claim blocks. Mm-hmm. Another transformational aspect was Palladium One, which is a really iconic nickel explorer in that area of northwest Ontario. They approached us and said they would like to do a joint venture on one of our properties, and they've been drilling that with some spectacular results on the nickel and copper sulfides. Mm-hmm. So then we had another industry icon approach us. Through my contacts, I was able to secure an option to purchase of a historical gold mine to the west in northwest Ontario, which had phenomenal grades. It stopped production in 1905, and nothing has been done to it for over 120 years. And some of the drilling has come up with like 3 ounces to the ton.
But this was in these old days not normal, but not really outstanding. Then normally, at least 100 years ago, 110 years ago, they're looking only for the high grade.
Absolutely.
They cannot handle this 1 gram stuff.
Which probably means there's still a lot left.
Yeah, for sure.
And
this is the Sunbeam.
Sunbeam, that's right, yes.
Okay.
And then the last property acquisition happened today.
Oh, okay.
Yes, and there will be a press release going out shortly confirming this. We've just signed an agreement with another company to option to purchase their hard rock lithium project in northwest Ontario called Zigzag.
Okay.
So our portfolio now, its backbone is gold on North Hemlo, Essa, Sunbeam, historic gold mine, but also we have the battery metals, the nickel, the copper. On one of our other properties, McKellar, we also have several percent samples of zinc over 500 metres. There's multi-ounce silver there, and there is also a diatreme, which is a geological feature, which contains anomalous rare earth metals.
Okay.
So we've got the whole portfolio that an investor might like to see. We've got precious metals, gold and silver. We've got base metals, the copper, lead, zinc, nickel, which some of them are the battery metals as well, and we have the lithium. So,
but when you have so many projects, you still need a focus. So what are you planning for this year?
The focus for this year has to be drilling.
Okay.
Because we had a really successful field season last year, our first field season. And my attitude about exploration is you go into a property, and when you've done the work on that property, be it a week, a month, or the field season, when you have the results back and you assimilate them, what you require is enough encouragement for you to go back.
Yeah.
And the system in Canada is a very fair system, is that every year you have to apply credits to your properties. The properties are made up of 400 hectares squares, and every square has to have $400 spent on it.
Okay.
So if you don't spend that money, the claims lapse.
Okay.
Now, we are in the fortunate position, you asked about focus, we're in the fortunate position because of the work we did last field season. Every one of our properties, every cell on every one of our properties is paid up for this year. So we're in a situation where we can focus.
Okay, so that means when you spend a certain amount in the 1 year, it's the credit falling over for the next year too, so that you not must do every year on the single project some things. You can bring this.
Yes, that's it. And if the cells are contiguous, joined together, and you spend a lot of money on one cell, you can spread that out.
Okay.
And of course, if you do drilling, that's very expensive. So one drill hole would keep one cell for 50 years.
Okay.
And on some of our properties, we did airborne geophysics, and again, that's quite expensive. But I think the important thing to take away, Joe, is that all our properties are paid up, shall we say. So they're in good standing, which allows us to do what you said, where are we going to focus? And for me, the focus is drilling. And I would be disappointed if by the end of this field season, we haven't drilled on 2 of our properties. 1 for sure, but 2 possibly.
And where's the focus? More the gold side, or more, you say that when you fixed me on the Sunbeam, for example, when you're coming up with 3 ounces, so it sounds 3 ounces. It's not bad.
Yeah, the Sunbeam one we will drill this year if we physically can. And when I say physically, there's a big demand for drill rigs in Ontario. It's crazy demand. So we might have
the prices going up.
Yes, we might have the target, we might have the money, but securing the drill rig. Now, the mining code in Ontario says that if you want to drill, you have to have an exploration permit, which allows you to drill. An integral part of that exploration permit is the acquiescence of the First Nations, who have the traditional rights over that land. So I've had a lot of meetings here at PDAC as well with the First Nation representatives. We took the decision and this was one of the company's ESG type decisions, that instead of following the rule book, which is you submit your exploration permit to the Crown, and then the Crown sends it to the First Nations. And I felt that we could walk into a situation where a First Nation group would get a letter from the Crown saying First Class Metals wants to do some drilling on your traditional lands. And they go, First Class Metals? Who are they? Never heard of them. Who's behind them? Where are they? Oh, they're British, and they've come to Canada, and they haven't had the politeness to come and see us. So we decided that we would go straight to the First Nations, and when the First Nations are happy, there's been a little bit of negotiation, and when they're happy, we give it to the Crown, who gives it to the First Nation, and they go, oh yeah, we've seen this, we're cool with this.
Yeah.
It takes a little bit longer, should I say it seems to take a little bit longer.
But in the end, it's working much quicker.
Because if we sent it to the Crown and the First Nation said, oh, that area there, that's got a lot of historical importance to us, we don't want any work, they then send it back to the Crown sends it to us, we change it, send it to the Crown, it goes back to so it takes a long time.
Yeah, and then they're coming up, this area is also not good, and then they're starting the discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, understandable. So, but going back to the single projects, what is really for you the most exciting one?
Oh, that's a tough question, actually.
But this is your job. You must thinking all the day. Well, what we are doing.
Well, I can sidestep the answer in one way.
Okay.
In so much as I have probably three areas on three projects that I find really exciting. And I wouldn't necessarily put one in front of the other, but logistics will put one in front of the other. Okay. For example, one area, it's probably going to be snow-free sooner, so we can get to there before another area which I might really like, but we can't get to. One area has a drilling permit on it, so we could go there and drill, whereas the other one we're still to have approval. But the three areas that really excite me.
So the name of the three one?
It's called the Dead Otter Trend on the North Hemlow Block.
Okay.
That area, that's a new discovery, and that trend is over 3 kilometres long. It's gold, but there's some important aspects about it. First, it contains a gold sample of 19.6 grams, which we believe it's the highest gold rock sample ever taken in that area, so that's important. It also contains almost 0.5% of molybdenum. Well, okay, molybdenum is a nice metal, but that's 0.5% isn't enough to make it viable. But the critical part about the molybdenum is the Hemlow gold mine, which is only 20 kilometres to the south, has a reserves and production of 23 million ounces. And that gold mine is characterised by its high molybdenum.
Okay.
So we have a new trend of 3 kilometres with some high gold values associated with molybdenum. So that's exciting. Never been drilled.
So this is possible that the source is the same.
It's the style. Yes.
The event was the same.
Similar style. And then the other exciting area, as you mentioned, is the Sunbeam gold mine. We're currently doing a really detailed appraisal on all the old work. As you can imagine, there was a lot of work done when there was mining, but that was 125 years ago. It's hard to get that information. Several companies have tried exploring it since, and they've had limited budgets, and they've just sort of like a scattergun approach. They haven't been systematic. So we're trying to get all the information together.
But do you know how deep they're going in the past?
Well, it wasn't particularly deep. It was less than 100 metres.
Okay, so it's all shallow.
It's shallow, and there's been no drilling below the shaft.
Okay.
There's been some geophysics that indicates the structure continues below the shaft, but there's actually 3 separate gold developments on that property. There's the old Sunbeam, then there's the Pettigrew, and Leroy. So it's not. It's a 15-kilometre long trend that's on the property.
Okay.
So it's a huge target.
Okay.
So that, and then of course the last one is the lithium. I find that exciting. The project has an 800-metre pegmatite on it, well, it's been identified over 800 metres, it could be longer, up to 20 metres wide, and up to 2% lithium oxide in spodumene at surface and also in a couple of shallow drill holes. Very little real exploration. So those three areas I think are exciting from geological point of view, but I think they're also exciting from an investor point of view.
So that brings me, you said before, exploration is expensive. So you need capital.
Yes.
How much or how big should be the exploration program this year? Then is how to finance this, and yeah, that's the key question.
We have enough money, either in the bank or as a drawdown facility, to do all the exploration we want to do this year, and that includes one, possibly two short drilling programs. So we could do a drilling program on the Dead Otter Trend of 1,500 metres, for example, and we could do a drilling program on Sunbeam of about the same. We have the facilities to do that, and to do other exploration on the project areas. As I said earlier, we don't have to. We can put them in abeyance if we felt we wanted to direct the money towards the drilling. However, if we did a 1,500 metre drill program on the Dead Otter Trend, which would probably be maybe 10 drill holes, if we were to get the results, the encouragement, and we wanted to do a 5,000 metre drill program, then we would need financing. I won't hide that point. I mean, anyone who looks at our annual report will come out, I hope, in April or May, and you'll see there in the finances, the audited accounts, that what money we have, and to mount a big drill program when you're possibly looking at $300 a metre. As you can imagine, a 2,000 metre program, that's $600,000. That's a lot of money.
This include also the S's on it?
Yes, that's an overall price. Yeah, and that price does vary depending on access, whether it's helicopter or you can drive to the.
You can drive through the thing, or you need helicopters.
The zigzag would probably be helicopter. North Hemlo you could drive.
Okay, interesting. Then infrastructure is a very important point. What I a little bit surprised is we say in the beginning that the market is a little in not really healthy conditions. But on the other hand, you get some troubles to get the drill rig. So how does it fit together?
Because people will put money into for the right project. I'm not losing sleep over financing going forward, because I think we have a quality company with quality projects with good management, and I think we will be supported.
Yeah, it brings me to you say in the beginning you have a joint venture with Palladium One. So they farm in your project, so
yes.
they spend the money.
They spend the money.
So you get then the news flow from them too on your project.
That's correct.
And which project is this?
That's the West Pickle Lake area of North Hemlo.
Okay.
The North Hemlo block is our biggest, like, shall we say, flagship property. It's 90 square kilometres. It contains the West Pickle Lake that Palladium One is drilling. It also contains the Dead Otter Trend.
The gold trend.
Yeah, but also it has another trend called the Fair Service Trend, which is also a base metal and gold trend. And that's an area where we will be doing exploration this year, because we didn't have enough time last year to explore everything.
Is there a field season there? You can say, okay, we can only work from April to September? Or?
Yes, it's a little bit longer than that. Last year it wasn't until first week in May. All the sort of feeling this year is it'll probably be April. But having said that, last year we were still out in the field at the end of November.
Okay.
So in an ideal year, it would probably be sometime in April to sometime late October into November. But that's the sort of like exploration field season without snow cover. But then, of course, you get the winter field season, because some areas are far more easily to access when everything's frozen. Like we have guys out there working at the moment on skidoos, and they're going onto the frozen lakes. They bore a hole through the ice in the lake, and then they drop this really heavy, like metal torpedo, and it drops down through the water, hits the soil, the sludge at the bottom of the lake. They pull it out and they sample it.
Okay.
So when we say field season, you have to be a little bit careful, because it's the regular exploration season is from when things thaw in the spring to when the snow and the ice come in the winter. But then you have the winter field season, which might be drilling as well, because some places again they have what's called the winter roads, winter ice roads, and you can drive across those in the winter when everything the bogs are frozen, but you can't in the summer.
Yeah, that's the point. In some area you can only drill in the winter when really everything is frozen. Coming to the shareholder structure.
Yeah.
How many shares are outstanding roughly, and where are the biggest groups?
Roughly, if we take in the outstanding warrants, because when we IPO'd there was half a warrant for every share issued, it's in about 90 odd million in total, under 100 million. Right, okay, and as far as the share ownership is concerned, the largest owner by far is still Power Metals, which have about 26%, I think, and then the two founding directors, James Knowles and Ayub Bodhi, they have about 15% each. Okay. So over 50% of the company is held by three entities, and they're all locked in for 12 months. They can't trade any of their shares until we've been listed for at least a year.
And your primary listing is in London?
Main board in London, yes.
Then London, and you have a dual listing in Frankfurt?
We have the Frankfurt listing, and yes, we engaged DGWA in order to help promote us and raise our profile for the German market, yes.
Marc, thank you for the first introduction.
Thank you.
And good luck with your drilling, with your field season. Thank you for this. Also on the last day. I know you are busy when you're running around and so on. PDAC ist immer wie ein Zoo. Da laufen die Leute immer ganz wirr rundherum. Und wenn man da unten einmal am Floor ist, da geht's zu. Das ist, deswegen ist das im Media Room richtig angenehm. So, kommen wir aber zu First Class Metals. Neue Company, Börsengang gehabt, London Stock Exchange, dual listed in Frankfurt. Was war die Idee hinter diesem Listing oder hinter der Firma? Sie wollen etwas machen in Ontario. Ontario ist ja dort, wo wir auch jetzt sind. Und sie wollen das alles auch konzentriert auf einen Bereich. Warum konzentriert auf einen Bereich? Weil nämlich dann die ganze rechtliche Sache natürlich viel einfacher ist, die Infrastruktur ist auch natürlich einfacher, die Leute, die dort arbeiten, kennen sie alle aus, es ist alles fokussierter. Und sie haben ein Riesenpaket eigentlich zusammengestellt, da hat es zwei interessante Gründe gegeben, also da gibt es zwei Hauptaktionäre, Direktoren, die haben die Firma eigentlich die Idee gehabt dazu, haben Projekte akquiriert, dann ist Power Metals gekommen und sagt, wir haben dieselbe Idee, die für diese Größe allerdings oder für den Markt ist zwei Firmen macht keinen Sinn, lass es uns gemeinsam machen, deswegen ist Power Metals der größte Aktionär, hat damals beim IPO ungefähr ein Drittel der Firma gehabt, ist jetzt nur immer mit 26%, glaube ich, der größte Aktionär. Die anderen zwei Gründungsmitglieder haben jeweils 15%, das heißt über 51% oder über 50% sind bei diesen drei Gruppen. Und sie haben ein wirklich großes Projektportfolio aufgestellt. Sie haben heute eine neue Akquisition bekannt gegeben, und zwar ein Lithium-Projekt, Zickzack. Und sie haben auch eine alte Mine akquiriert, zum Beispiel Sunbeam, das war also alles bevor es IPO war. Sie haben einige Projekte laufen. Sie haben ein Joint Venture mit Palladium One, das kennen wir. Das heißt, sie kriegen dort einen Newsflow. Das heißt, Palladium One ist bei Jahren in in Northern Hemlo. Und in diesem Jahr, die Feld-Season fängt im Mai ungefähr an, Ende April, Anfang Mai, je nachdem wie der Schnee weg ist. Dann wollen sie dieses Jahr eigentlich zwei Projekte bohren. Bei North Hemlo, you have already the drill permits?
No, they're under application.
Under application?
Yes.
Okay. And where's the other project where you have to drill?
Sunbeam has permitting and Zigzag has permitting.
Okay. Also Sie gesagt, das ist das neue Lithium-Projekt und Sunbeam, da kam bereits die Pyramids, da könnten Sie jederzeit anfangen zu bohren, wenn es geht. Aber das große Problem ist Bohrgeräte. Es ist scheinbar ein großer Boom oder Suche nach Bohrgeräten, es wird also sehr viel exploriert und Sie haben eigentlich in Ihren Projekten ziemlich alles drinnen. Natürlich Gold, Nickel mit Palladium One, Lithium. Sie haben allerdings auch andere Projekte mit Zink zum Beispiel und so weiter. Das heißt, Sie haben alle möglichen Metalle in Ihren Projekten eigentlich drinnen. Wenn man sich das an der Map anschaut, dann sieht man, dass das sehr, sehr konzentriert ist auf einen Bereich. Das heißt, das ist relativ leicht auch zu erreichen und vor allem natürlich auch von denselben Personen. Das heißt, damit sind die Kosten natürlich schon deutlich niedriger. In diesem Jahr wollen es bohren. 2 Projekte sind geplant, sollten Sie bei einem Projekt natürlich allerdings so gute Ergebnisse zurückkriegen, werden Sie es dann natürlich weiter erweitern. Geld brauchen Sie für das Programm derzeit nicht, sollte es allerdings so gute Ergebnisse sein, müssen Sie es wahrscheinlich neu finanzieren. Und Sie sind in London notiert, der Chart schaut eigentlich ganz gut aus, muss man ehrlicherweise sagen. Also die sind deutlich gestiegen seit dem IPO um ca. 80%. Das ist schon sehr, sehr interessant. Ja, das war die erste Einführung zu First Class Metals. Und wie gesagt, sie sind notiert in Frankfurt unter dem Symbol Wilhelm Nordpol 9. Ich schreibe die WKN dann sowieso noch mit drauf. So, das war's von First Class Metals. Marc Sale an der PDAC 2023, März 23 natürlich. Tschüss und Baba, für dich. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleasure.